Talking about the speaking to the children about the ethics and things, I'll come back to that part later. But now I'd like to ask about the question of the social life of democracy. So the thing is, it seems that unfortunately, that's the trend all around the world, the rise of populism, the right-wing populism and things. So what we see is, unfortunately, the electoral democracy seems to be rewarding the hate, in the sense the more hateful, the more you nurture the hate between communities and things, you are more likely to win. So it seems that the electoral democracy rewards the hate and things, which should have been the case. So which is a very, very pessimistic situation we are in at the moment. So more and more countries are falling for the trap, I guess. So like, where do you see a way out from this?
Yeah. No, now that you mentioned this, it provokes me to thinking about it in this following manner, that is it a problem of electoral democracy as such? I mean, we know the strengths and weaknesses of electoral democracy in general, okay?
Yes.
It has had some very important contributions, as many political scientists in India have pointed out. For example, a very important thing, like people like Chandok and others have pointed out, is that democracy in India is really not as much about individual rights as group rights.
Yes.
It has brought people who would have been invisible and kept under the power of the elite. You know, that would have continued if it was not for electoral democracy.
Yeah, that's true.
And that shifted the whole way of looking at the society in terms of, so it has consequences of group identities, etc. All of that happens. But it also did that great revolution.
Yes.
Much needed, which I don't know which other way, which other mechanism could have brought us to this so fast.
Yes, true,
right?
true.
And so, there are some important part, but the problem with it in the context of present day is just this question of majoritarianism. I mean, the fact that are we only voting, the majority is going to dictate what democracy really is. So while that is a problem of delivery,
Okay.
delivery of democracy, because the voting, remember, is just the delivery of democracy. It is nothing to do with the aim of democracy. Voting per se has very little to do with what democracy is. It's about, if it is seen about choice, because you know, when I did the social life of democracy, that's what I began with. I began with asking the question, what is there anything ethical about democracy?
Yes.
That's a question I wanted to answer. I had written a couple of op-eds in Hindu, which I wanted to base and start off with, as to say, look, what is ethical about democratic practice, including voting? And I realized voting had just become a transactional mode.
Exactly.
So I wanted to explain to the people who are involved in voting, what is the moral dimension of voting? And then I wrote this piece on saying, look, actually, why do we vote at all? What are you voting for? And there I made a very simple argument that, look, the meaning of the public is that all of us have a share in the public wealth.
Okay.
Whatever is called as a public, the state. Okay, state is an organ of it, but I'm saying whatever is called as a public, all of us own it.
Yes.
Like the
Fair
park.
share.
Yeah, all of us.
Yes.
We have one small, with a million of us, and there's a park.
Yes.
And that's part of our public, then all of us have 1 millionth share of that park.
Yes.
But when I vote, so we can't sell it, I can't sell it, etc. Maybe unless all of us decide to do it. When I vote, I am only choosing somebody to take care of our common wealth,
Okay.
which that person and us all own,
Yes.
to take care of the public wealth. That is the ethical question here, which means you are asking the person I vote to be a trustee of the wealth that we all share.
Okay.
And therefore, the failure of democracy is immediately correlated whenever the public gets converted to private, you know there's a democracy has failed.
Okay.
Because the public
Private,
was...
you mean the individual level or community level?
no, I'm saying at all levels. The public is that which is publicly allowed, all of us have own it in some sense, right? Now, when that gets converted to private, our ownership of the public
Yes.
goods and the public land is gone.
Yes.
Whether it is water or air or land or whatever. And anybody who does that, and it's only politicians who do it, because instead of being trustees of that wealth, they have become owners of that wealth.
Yes, that's true.
That is the problem. And that's it's not really a problem of democracy as an ideal in that sense, maybe, but more on the delivery mechanism, which means we have not had, accountability for this and so on. And the other part of the delivery is about voting itself, that we have not educated people, and not educated is a very, maybe, not a very perhaps the right word. I'm saying the amount of qualities that you expect of a voter, not in terms of degrees and education and so on, and just an amount of knowing about what is it to be a human, what is it that you're voting for, etc. Are those kind of things, if it had distilled a lot among the society, there will always be people who will take money and vote. We can't be concerned about everybody who is involved in society. You just want to know whether most people want, how do they see, in other words, what I'm saying is, we are voting based on how we are looking at society.
Yes.
That's all.
Yes.
Most people I know who are voting for these politicians don't like the politicians.
Yes.
Not necessarily like, oh, I love them, I want them. They won't even, they are using them because they are representing their view of society. So we need to change these people's view of society. And that's why, sorry.
No, I was wondering, like, see, when you say what is due to us, like everybody should have the right to the public good, what is due to them, like fair share, I would say. But then the thing is, then the minority politics or the Dalit politics or all manifestation of this politics will say that we are not getting the due. You know? So which is also an emancipatory discourse in the sense, like when it comes from the Dalit discourse, they would say that we haven't been given the fair share.
Correct.
So if we organize, we vote, then we'll get the fair share. Then the problem is, this is the same argument from all the sides, even from the majority Aryan discourse. The discourse is democratic in the sense they are only saying we are not getting the due. They are not saying like we should get the wall. They are just saying we are not getting the due. They are articulating a very democratic, at the outset, very democratic argument. But the thing is, the same democratic argument has led us to what we are in the mess we are now. So what I was wondering is, like, where is the way out? In the sense, I was wondering, like, is there a possibility of inculcating ethics where you compromise for the other? You know, like, do we need a different discourse inculcated to this democratic discourse, which is fundamentally flawed as we see now?
I agree with that. That's why I said what attracted me when I was struggling with this question was Ambedkar's idea of social democracy. So when I read Social Life of Democracy, I begin with this point, which I thought was so truthful and so basic that I don't see why people don't think of this at all. Once you read it and you say, oh my God, why don't we teach this in school? Which is Ambedkar's point that, okay, political democracy is important. I mean, he is after all one of the important architects for that. But he also says political democracy without an idea of a society being democratic is quite meaningless. So, in other words, we really want to understand the spirit of democracy. So, we are using the word democracy to refer to various acts. But if you want to ask what are the qualities of democracy that we really capture something as voting per se is not democratic, capture all those qualities
so now
of democracy.
It has become synonymous to, like, what is democratic is what is, like, the political, the voting and things.
So that is not the quality, I mean, not the essential quality. So so Ambedkar's point was, okay, the society has to be democratic, otherwise what's the meaning of calling it a democratic government? And that's what triggered my question of asking, how do you make society democratic? So to me, the democratic processes are those which is not about choice of who is going to govern you. It's about those which is fundamentally about what are the mechanisms of governance, distribution, whatever, which makes a society democratic. But first I had to understand what does it mean to say society is democratic.
Yeah.
Because where is democracy to be found? What is democracy in a house? So I begin by saying, where do you find democracy and how you have to inculcate it? Is it from a house? Can a child go to parents and say, you're not being democratic with me, and I want chocolate and you're buying dress, so that's not democracy, it's a choice. And then you go to the school. What is the meaning of democracy in a school system, in a class system, which is inherently hierarchical with the teacher and thing? If I have had students who will say, I don't want to read this text because I don't like it. And there are students who say, I don't want to do mathematics because if I don't like it. And then what is the point? Is that being anti-democratic if you tell children, no, you have to learn mathematics?
True.
Right? So I explored that in that book. And as I said, I wanted it to be readable, so it's meant as a general conversational text. So what does it actually mean from house to school, to jobs, to colleges, everywhere? And if we are not democratic in all of these, how do you expect suddenly a politician to be democratic in a society?
True.
So Ambedkar's, and there was a very interesting point at that time. China had released a white paper on calling themselves as the world's largest democracy.
Yes.
And it was a very interesting text, because they say, well, we are the world's largest democracy. Without naming India, basically they're saying everything is happening in India is all bogus, because democracy is not about how many people vote, but how much you can benefit people. So they want to call it as people's democracy, which is democracy. So voting is one mechanism to achieve some goal, right? So for these people, they said our democracy is a means to achieve some goals to people, where people can get more economic benefit, more access to social goods like education, health, etc. Okay. So they say, well, we may not call it as what they start calling as Western democracy. We don't call it as that Western democracy, which is individual vote, etc. and so-called notions of choice. But this is what we call as that, etc. Okay, so there are various questions around. I discuss it a little bit of it. But then I find that eventually what Ambedkar says about a very simple point. I just wanted to work at only that level. So there's a lot more which can of course be pulled out and analyzed. Ambedkar points out that the three qualities of democracy are liberty, equality, and fraternity, which he modifies and takes as a different interpretation of the French Revolution. Now you have liberty, equality, democracy. And then he points out that liberty is largely about individual rights, individual freedom to do what I want, choice and so on. Says liberty by itself is in opposition to equality. Like we see today, the merit versus reservation argument is really what Ambedkar was talking about, liberty, equality argument.
Okay.
And says they're both in conflict with each other. They're both necessary, but they're both in conflict.
Okay.
But we need a term to control these two and keep them all in balance.
Yes.
And that is fraternity.
An anchoring concept.
An anchoring concept. That which enables these two so that they don't destroy each other.
Yeah.
And that is fraternity, which he draws as Maitri from Buddha. And this fraternity, he says, is the root of democracy.
Okay.
There are a lot of very interesting questions about it. And I think a work of all, generally about any intellectual tradition, is to build on other people's work, extend it, look at its limitations, look at its strengths and how you want to build around it. All writers are, like often people say, oh, that person is not a philosopher, this person is not. I often reply to them that one makes somebody a philosopher. 10 of us keep writing about them, reflecting on their work and commenting, and then, that's what happens, right? So there's a lot more to work on Maitri and build on it and extend various interesting things about it. But I thought that was a very, very powerful insight. It's driven largely from his lived experience about the nature of societies, nature of what the communities went through, the Dalit community. So it speaks so deeply to the lived reality of a society, and it offers us a way to understand this question of what is democracy without giving up on democracy. That's the crucial point.
True.
Because, if you don't have some control, what would be the alternative? Even if there's majoritarianism, if they didn't have, I agree that sometimes majoritarianism overrides, electoral democracy. But if this is not there, I shudder to think what that majority would do. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, historically, we have had very bad examples of all of this. So, but this question of fraternity, that's a question you are coming back repeatedly to. And that is also my fundamental question. How does this care and compassion and fraternity, the notion of fellow beingness, brotherhood, etc., how does it come in? And that can only come from schools. It has, that's why the question of democracy coming from schools is so important. Because as you had also pointed out, schools have become so competitive that it's all about students destroying another student in order to survive in a classroom. And how do you bring in questions of care, compassion and maitri right from that time?
Very important. And I was wondering, like, since you have engaged with the children, students, like at a younger age, I was wondering, do you think or do you feel that the care and compassion and ethics, that's innate to children or innate to us? Why I'm asking this is the fraternity and the compassion and care, these questions also ask us to be compromising, to share, in the sense even what is due to you. If one children has two, like one child has two candies, and his friend doesn't have any, but then this is his candies, but he still has to share his. But this is also compromising his rights, like what is due to him. So this is it innate to us? That's what I was wondering. Or do we have to, is it going against the individuality within us, where I need to eat both candies?
Okay. No, okay, a lot of very interesting things in this. Okay, let me state my position. You know, hate is taught.
Okay.
Hate is taught. I think we are innately social beings.
Okay.
We are innately, in that sense, if you want to look at it as good, quote unquote good, because good is a very particular kind of human value, but I'm just saying in a larger context, we are innately like that. Particular forms of capitalism wants to promote the view that we are all competitive and that we will destroy each other if you don't allow whatever, and that, you know, the better person I am, more meritorious, I deserve more.
But
all of that are produced.
That runs through the Western philosophy, I guess.
Yeah, and that has been produced in this notion of particular individualism. I'm saying, so the two questions. One, is care and compassion innate? Yes. I'll qualify what I mean by that. Second, that the idea of the individual is not the primary unit. It is a social which is a primary unit. This is our argument which Gopal and me make in our everyday social book. Through the length of the book on how the individual has to be extracted from a social.
Okay.
Social is what defines us. Whether the social in the sense, and this is where the real interesting question comes. The social is first produced for us in the family. So the idea of family as a unit, which plays such an important role in India too, and in many communitarian groups, it's a very difficult question to understand, because family is also a model of sharing. So when we say, can people share, every family is about sharing.
Yes.
In the sense, you know, like once a writer was telling me, he was quite, I think he was quite upset about something. He said, you know, family, I give all my money I earn to my children and to my wife and stuff. I don't even think about, I won't give it to somebody else. I won't give 10 rupees to them. But here I earn, and for me, I don't even think about them partaking of it, right? The question of sharing becomes a foundational question of at least the ideal family structure. And in general, however problems there are in a family, question of sharing is very integral.
Yes.
Even the food the mother may cook, or the father, whoever is cooking, is also shared.
Yes.
It's not done for one person.
True,
and the money you earn is shared, the house is shared, everything. So we learn that question of sharing very easily and immediately within the context of a family.
Yes.
Now the problem is that family teaches us the innateness of sharing, But family also teaches us that sharing with others
Outside the family.
outside the family is a problem.
Okay.
So, in other words, sharing is produced in a family, but a social definition of a family which distinguishes one family from another makes this problem of sharing across society a problem.
Okay. So that is both sharing and the opposite of is also being taught from the family itself, you mean?
That's the point. So both compassion and hate is taught in a family. In a family, there are various rules which will transgress various caste things also to some extent, but it is a family which will also protect the caste boundaries in various ways. So it is this very odd position of the idea of the family.
Yes, yes.
Which is, integral to many of this. So if everybody looked at everybody as a family, the world as a family, as now many of these Hindu people keep saying, right, is that idea that the next person deserves a share in what I have. That has to be
Giving up
taught.
what is due to me.
Yeah, what is enough is
supposed
what
to
due to
be.
me.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember when I wrote a book, again, another thing for general public on ethics of philanthropy. I did a study of J.R.D. Tata for his 100th year, and I went to his archives in Jamshedpur, Pune, etc. A very remarkable person.
Yes.
And I discovered that he was very deeply influenced by Gandhiji's idea of trusteeship.
Okay.
And here he disagreed with Gandhi on all economic principles, okay? But he was deeply influenced by Gandhi on the idea of trusteeship. And Gandhi's idea of trusteeship is quite brutal, where he says even that any wealth you have, it is your duty, moral duty, to protect it and enhance it for the betterment of society, not for the betterment of me.
True.
So he had one of the rules in his trusteeship rules that the money which a family or a person generates cannot be given to his children.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was quite radical.
Where does it go then?
To the betterment of those who are worse off in society.
Oh, okay.
And his trusteeship model he draws from different religious doctrines, Islam,
The very
Christianity.
term trusteeship,
Yeah.
in Islam, the idea is human beings are Khalifa, in the sense the trustee of
Khalifa.
yes, Khalifa. Everybody is a Khalifa of the material world. So we have the responsibility. So anything, like even the property and everything, you don't really own.
Absolutely.
In that sense.
Correct. You don't own it. And Gandhi's point was, you may think you're a great industrialist, you may make a lot of money. It's not yours. You cannot even give it to your children.